So we have all these hormones running throughout the blood, but how do you control them? How do you control the initial release? Now, those blood levels of hormones are controlled usually by a negative feedback cycle. Negative feedback means something went wrong, you then fix it. Put it back to its normal state. So all these hormone levels in your blood, they usually have a very narrow range that they're trying to stay within. And those levels don't always stay the same throughout life. They can change depending on different points in life, even different points within the day. So all these levels are trying to be kept within a homeostatic balance in a response to how the body is acting, to what's going on in the body. Let's look at this one as an example. First off, the initial stimulus is going to be glucocorticoids. The glucocorticoids are at low levels. That means there's not enough. They're not within their homeostatic balance. What happens then is the receptors that realize that in the blood send a signal up to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is going to produce CRH. CRH is corticotropin releasing hormone. Now, corticotropin releasing hormone will be produced in the hypothalamus, then it's sent down to the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary then is going to be stimulated to produce ACTH. ACTH is going to be adrenocorticotropic hormone. So ACTH. That adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, will then leave the anterior pituitary and head down to the adrenal cortex. The adrenal cortex then is going to produce the glucocorticoids. As those glucocorticoids are released, produced and released, or simply released, depends if there's enough stored, they get back into the blood flow and then they increase the levels in the blood. The receptors realize they've increased levels and hey, we're back in homeostasis. We're back where we should be. Which means at that point, here we're saying, hey, you know what? No more CRH. We don't need the corticotropin releasing hormone. We have enough. We're now sitting in homeostasis. And it will stay in homeostasis until those receptors again realize there's too much or too little of those glucocorticoids. There's a constant negative feedback. If something's wrong, it adjusts it back to what it should be. So going from too little, produce the hormone, cascade through, produce more of what was low, the glucocorticoids. So the way this works happens in 3 different ways. There are 3 different methods that your hormones are stimulated for release. We have the humoral, neural, and hormonal. Now you have to be careful not to mix up the humoral and the hormonal. So first up is the humoral. Now in this case, this example is looking at the thyroid and the parathyroid glands. Both the thyroid and parathyroid are monitoring the blood for calcium. So basically, humoral is a direct monitoring of the bloodstream, monitoring directly for the ions. This gland, or these glands I should say, the parathyroid and the thyroid, can release hormones in relation to what's going on with calcium levels in the blood. And we'll talk about which hormones and what, but this is a humoral stimuli. We can release either the parathyroid hormone or calcitonin, so parathyroid gland, calcitonin comes out of the thyroid. They can be released because of the direct monitoring of calcium in the blood. They need some intermediary to tell them to release. So humoral is a direct monitoring system of the blood. Neural stimuli. Well, neural, like it sounds, neural is nervous. So in this case, looking at the adrenal gland, specifically the medulla, the inside. The adrenal medulla can be directly stimulated by a neural signal. So it receives an action potential. That stimulus will cause the adrenal medulla to secrete the catecholamines. Catecholamines are epinephrine and norepinephrine. So the neural stimuli, a direct stimuli from the nervous system. So we have humoral, which was monitoring the ions in the blood. We have neural, which is a direct nervous stimulus. And we have hormonal stimuli. Now the hormonal stimuli, in this case, is one hormone will be secreted to stimulate a gland. That gland can then release a second hormone. You can see here, we have the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary is going to secrete quite a few different hormones. But here we have the thyroid stimulating hormone, which goes down to the thyroid gland, which then makes thyroid hormone. We then have the ACTH hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, which goes to the adrenal cortex, and then that secretes hormones. We also then have follicle stimulating hormone. That's going to go down to the testes or the ovaries and stimulate the production or release of the different gametes. So we have the hormones stimulating a second hormone to be produced and released. So humoral, direct monitor of the blood. We have then neural, a direct nervous stimulus. And now we have hormonal. Hormonal is one hormone, stimulates a second hormone to be released. So 3 different methods of how the hormones themselves are being released. Now again, this is not target cell activation. This is simply hormonal release. A little bit different categorization there.